Be ready. 5 seconds. Start. Historically, nations had fought their wars with weapons developed before the outbreak of the conflict and produced these in large numbers with the onset of hostilities. Because of a lack of organized approach, the time normally taken to realize a weapon from concept through stages of research, development, testing, production in large numbers, training of the soldiers to use the weapon, and formulation of the tactics by the commanders was far too long. No radical innovation leading to the development and production of weapon systems was therefore attempted during earlier wars, and scientists and technologists were never taken into the military other than as combatants. The first break from this tradition came about in the World War I by the introduction of poison gas by the Germans and the tank by the Britishers. These were developed after the hostilities had commenced and were aimed at breaking the stalemate of the trench warfare. However, it was during the World War II that the break from the earlier tradition was final by the formation of essentially a civilian organization which innovated for the military during the war period and provided the Allied forces led by the USA new weapon systems such as the microwave radar, proximity fuse, and atomic bomb, to name a few, which tilted the balance against the Axis forces led by the Nazis. In the immediate aftermath of the war, geopolitical considerations led to the Cold War, which polarized the developed world into two main blocs holding distinct ideologies, with the USA being the leader of the Western Bloc and the USSR the leader of the other. The advice of Dr. Bush that it is essential that the civilian scientists continue in peacetime some portion of these contributions to national security, which they have made so effectively during war, was accepted, and the close association of the scientists with the military continued in the USA. In the decades after the cessation of the war, the US Department of Defense became instrumental in the development of electronics, aerospace, engineering, and other technologies and sciences related to military operations. Integrated circuits, real-time applications of computers, software, supersonic aircraft, and space technology came into being and were progressed at a rapid pace that normally would not have been possible in the commercial competitive environment of that time. Conditions before World War II, the major military and economic power on the side of the Allies. In the beginning of the World War II was Britain, which had an empire including India to defend against the Germans and the Japanese. Even though in the period between the two wars, the admirals and the generals had shown little interest in science and technology, the threat of a major war under which the country had lived for some years had turned the thoughts of many of its talented scientists, even as early as 1934, to problems of national defense before the hostilities had begun. The success of a scientific solution to the menace of the German magnetic mines to the Allied shipping was instrumental in bringing science and scientists of Britain fully into the war from its very early days. As the war waged, the British scientists from the universities were asked to participate in the problems concerning military requirements. On the other hand, the policy followed by the British in India towards scientific and technical education, scientific and industrial research and development was in keeping with their role as colonial rulers. Even though India had a long and rich history of distinct indigenous techno-scientific traditions, the colonial policy did not encourage generation of technical knowledge or ensure its integration into the knowledge base existing in the country. Colonial, commercial, and government imperatives set the parameters for the transfer and absorption of new technologies by the local population. For example, the colonial government had set up by the turn of the last century a dozen scientific institutions such as the Geological Survey of India, but the work done by these organizations were specifically aimed to serve the commercial interests of the British. During World War I, when the lack of industrial development in the country and the uncertainty of imports affected the supply of manufactured goods, the colonial government responded by setting up an Indian Industrial Commission. The IIC, in its report, suggested that manufacturing activities would have to be preceded by adequate scientific and technical services which were deficient in the country. In spite of limitations imposed by the colonial rule, local efforts and achievements in education had resulted in the country having a scientific and technical workforce by the time World War I had been declared in Europe. In the beginning of the 1930s, even after repeated demands by the provincial governments, scientists such as the Nobel laureate Sir C.V. Raman, Dr. J.C. Bose, and some prominent British scientific workers, the colonial government in India resisted pressure to set up a central body for scientific and industrial research similar to the Department of Scientific and Industrial Research, that is DSIR, set up in Britain after World War I. Later, even after the Governor General of India was advised by the British government to set up an organization similar to the DSIR in UK, it was not accepted on financial grounds. Instead, the Bureau of Scientific and Industrial Research, that is BSIR, was set up under Commerce member of the Governor General's Executive Council with the scientist in charge. The scope of BSIR was limited to war-related research in collaboration with academic laboratories. For example, the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore was involved in training a considerable number of technicians in testing and calibration of electrical and radio instruments, in the repair of mechanical appliances for the Royal Air Force, and in the production of chemicals and gases for the fighting services. Even with meager budget of rupees 5 lakh, BSIR by 1941 was able to work out a number of processes at the laboratory level for utilization by industry and thus established the case for greater funding by the government. Mainly through the efforts of hard-working scientists, in 1942, the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research was formed as an autonomous body with a research grant of 1 million rupees. However, throughout the war period, the application of the colonial policy in the domain of scientific research and cooperation excluded Indian scientists and scientific and industrial organizations from receiving valuable scientific inputs in such fields as nuclear energy, guided missiles, chemical, new materials, and so on. Initially in India, DRDO was formed in 1958 from the amalgamation of the already functioning technical development establishment of the Indian Army and the Directorate of Technical Development and Production with the Defense Science Organizations, and was a small organization with only 10 establishments.